Do you know what to do when problems erupt in your business? If you don't know what to do, tune in and find out.
You are listening to the Prosper at Law podcast. Learn how to reduce stress, have more time, and make more money. Come on in.
I'm Greg McCollum, and I built a 7-figure criminal defense law firm. I formed Prosper at Law to show criminal defense law firm owners who are desperate for success how to grow from under $200,000 to $1 million and beyond. You know, when you become successful, the question is, when does it get easier? And the question is really never. It never really gets easier. It gets less chaotic. It can get calmer. You can have what I'm going to start calling slow mornings. You can have white space. And you have to be there so you can make decisions. And by saying be there, I don't mean be in your office. I mean be there with the capacity to make decisions. One of my mentors, David Neagle, who's a life coach, a success coach, who's been instrumental in changing my life and changing the way that I approach life and understanding that life is an adventure. And I'll talk about that in a little bit, because who wouldn't want to have an adventure? And that's simply a mindset. But Nagel told me that if I were not as successful, Greg, if you're not as successful as you want to be, it's because you don't have enough problems. Greg, if you're not as successful as you want to be, it's because you don't have enough problems. Now think about that. Now, you know, that was pretty confusing to me because I was doing coaching and I was trying to grow my business so I wouldn't have any more problems because I didn't understand. And when you think about somebody pays you to work, they're really paying you to solve problems. When somebody hires you as a lawyer, they're paying you to solve a problem. That's why they pay you. That's why they pay you to get up and go to work, because you're there to solve problems. So if you want to be bigger, solve some bigger problems. If something breaks, your attitude, what's your attitude? I remember listening to Michael McCollum, who has Chris Video, and that's an extraordinary success story in and of itself. And he said, you know, the phone system's down, great. Copier broke, great. Somebody's threatening to quit, great. 4 employees just quit, great. And that's great. I'm going to solve another problem. To get bigger, solve a problem. To innovate and change the world, or change your world, or change people's world around you, solve a problem. And I was studying something recently, and I ran across this thing about McLean shipping. And as far as I know, McLean shipping is basically a container company, international shipping company, where they take these containers and they put them on the truck, and we see all this when you drive up and down the highway. You see these containers on what I call tractor trailers, but it's not a tractor trailer trailer that's attached to the wheels. It's a flatbed trailer, and they've got this shipping container, which could have come from anywhere in the world, with goods in it, and they take it with a crane and they take it off the ship and they put it on the truck, and the truck drives off, and that's how they do it. It's almost like a child's toy, like a Tonka toy. And the interesting thing about McLean is, and I think this was in the 1950s, he wanted to go to college, okay, because he wanted to, make something of his life. And so he couldn't afford college, and so he had to take a job as a truck driver. And I think it was a relative knew somebody, or it was a friend, relative's company or something. So he's working, driving a truck. So he pulls the truck up, and they load the truck. And my dad ran a Firestone, so, I unloaded trucks as part of my job when I was in like high school and college, and I think even in law school some, where the truck would back into Firestone. It's full of tires, And so a group of us get up in the back of the truck and start rolling those tires off. And then people are basically catching them and stacking them or rolling them. And we'd roll them into this warehouse. And then there was a conveyor belt that went to the second floor. And we'd take the tires and throw them on the conveyor belt. And there's somebody at the top of the conveyor belt who's pulling them off and rolling them aside and then eventually rolling them. And it was kind of fascinating, really, because some of these tractor trailer truck tires, like the semi truck tires, they're big and they're heavy. And there were people that worked for my dad that they could take that tire and roll it up on their knee and then throw it on a stack over their head. Okay. And so these people were athletic, they were big, they had technique. And so I learned to do some of that. So on some levels, okay, that was fun. We kind of turned it into a game. You know, you could roll, like, some of these guys could roll like 6 passenger tires together and roll. They'd all go and they'd roll them over to the warehouse door and that sort of thing. So McLean, that's what he's doing. You know, he can't go to college. He doesn't have the money. So he's getting paid to drive this truck. And in my experience, a lot of the truck drivers that I dealt with that drove these tires and things like that, you know, their job also was to help unload it. You know, they weren't sitting over there drinking a cup of coffee or something like that. They were sweating in the back of the truck with the rest of us, getting these tires off the truck. Okay. And I don't know if they even do that anymore, but that's the way they did it then. So he's driving this truck, and I don't know how long he was driving it, but one day he went to a shipping port, and he was supposed to either, I don't know if they were supposed to unload the truck or he was picking up, getting the truck loaded. But that really doesn't matter, because in those days, the way they unloaded the truck is things were transported in packages, things were transported in barrels. They were all like whatever your product was that came from the farm or the distillery or wherever it was in their containers. And that's the way it worked. And so the people at the ship, and I think they were loading the ship. They were loading the ship. And so, you know, you got a barrel. So one person, you know, gets a hand truck, right? And he's rolling one barrel. Then another guy's rolling one, and somebody comes back and gets another barrel, and they get the boxes and they're just doing this. And so he's sitting there, and it's taking forever. And so he started thinking, and that's where you innovate. That's why in your law firm you need this white space. You need this non-work time so you can sit around and actually have a thought without being interrupted. You can have some time to think about your business and think about issues and problems you have and how can you do a better job with that problem. And in McLean's instance, it was really a quantum leap, because as he's sitting there at the shipping port waiting forever, he's thinking, and he starts thinking, well, what if you just took the back of the truck, which is loaded, and put the back of the truck, the trailer, that part of the truck, what if you just picked that up and put it on the ship? And they actually looked at that and they tried to come up with a way to do that. Then he got the bright idea, well, what if the back of the truck lifted off the wheels? And that way somebody could attach a crane to it and literally just pick up the container part off the back of the truck and load it onto the ship. And if you looked at these cargo ships, I've seen them up close. I was in Savannah one time where they come right up the river, and these things are huge. They're like, I don't know, 10 stories tall, something like that, maybe bigger. I know the Savannah Bridge is extremely high above the water, and I've seen those container ships going under it, and they're not going to hit the top of it, but they're so high. I don't know, maybe they go up 100 feet. I don't know. but they're so high, I thought that thing's not going to clear the bridge. So how did this come about? McLean then got the idea and actually went, I think, and started looking at the engineering of it, and was going to start a company. He was going to try to build these containers, and he did. So he started shipping and selling these containers so that his idea changed shipping forever. Because all of a sudden, nobody had to unload the trailer anymore. They just pick up the container, put it on the ship. Pick up the container, put it on the ship. Because at some point you have to unload the container, but you don't have to unload it to put it on the ship. You don't have to unload the ship to put it on a truck and move it. So this drastically changed shipping, and McLean did that. So that was a problem. Now, eventually he had the container company, and then I think he got into some other parts of the business and became, one of the major players in basically, I guess, trans-ocean shipping, and blew up. And McLean Shipping is that's what he did. How did he do that? He saw a problem. And he had so much time sitting there, he started thinking about it. But then the other thing he did is he took action. Because now I've never done anything like that. I've never created a product to solve a problem like that, that becomes an international problem solver. And just from what things I have done, I know that there's many obstacles, I'm sure, along the way, and just putting that in process is an incredible achievement, right? So that's what he did. He solved a problem. Now, I love movies, and I love watching movies, and to some extent, I've studied movies and I've studied screenplays. And one of the things that really, because I grew up in college, I studied literature. And when you're reading literature, it's not an action movie. and you look at it as the characters are doing things, it's slow moving. But if you look at movies, if you look at the certain Hollywood formula, and there's a formula for this, that not every single movie you watch has the same plot structure, but most of them do. If you're watching a show on Netflix, your favorite series, your favorite movie, or something like that, it's formulaic. And so I've sat there before because I'm trying to translate this knowledge into writing a screenplay that would be good, okay? And so when I really started, because I sit there, with a stopwatch and a pad and pencil, or pad and pen, and write it down. There's like in a movie that you like, a movie that I enjoy, a movie that's interesting and exciting, and it could be, it could be The Equalizer, or it could be Indiana Jones, or it could be almost anything. All right, The Lincoln Lawyer, the series, not the movie, but the series on television, The Lincoln Lawyer. It applies to all of these things that I watch. And it's the hero, okay? They have a crisis like every 7 minutes, okay? And the thing about it is, and if you think about it, when you watch these movies, and when maybe you watch them in the future and look at it, right when the thing is about to work out, something goes wrong. So a new problem, which is almost insurmountable, rises. And so the protagonist has to solve that problem. And then he solves that problem, and everything seems okay. Then another problem happens. Then another problem happens. And the entire movie that's so engaging is just one problem after another. And before I understood to embrace problems and embrace solutions, I remember when I had this dinky little law practice in this little house that I tried to renovate, or I wasn't doing anything meaningful. I mean, when I got in court, I was doing meaningful work, but I wasn't doing anything meaningful in terms of growing a business or growing a law firm business. And I had read this quote, and back then you cut things out of the paper or it's hard to, depending on your age, you maybe don't even understand this, but you take the scissors and cut it out of a magazine or the newspaper. And newspapers were things that they brought to your house, and you spread them out and read them. All that's gone away, but and I cut it out because it just spoke to me in my life. And the quote was, it was like a road sign, and it said, "One damn thing after another, next 10,000 miles." Okay. So 2 things about that. That's true. One damn thing after another, next 10,000 miles, being, I guess, like a allegory for your life. One damn thing after another, next 10,000 miles. But then how do you approach that? Do you do what I did then? Do you complain about it? Oh my God, look what happened to me. Look at this. Can you believe this happened to me? Can you believe they did that? Right when I thought I was going to do something good, this happens. And in just running a household level, it's like, okay, you're trying to save money. You're trying to maybe get some money to go on a vacation or something, or buy something. And then the heat and air goes out, or the refrigerator breaks, or you have a flat tire on your car and they can't repair it, and you got to go buy an expensive tire. Or you take your car into the shop and they tell you need a brake job. So just one damn thing after another. And how do you look at that? Do you complain about it, or do you embrace it? Great. We're going to solve it. We're going to get through this. This is what happens. And if you listen to people, you can really quickly figure out where they are in life based on what they say. Because if you're around somebody and they're complaining about the problems that they're having in their life, mostly I'm talking about money problems, then it tells you they're not that successful. Because the people I know, like my cousin, for instance, had built a, 8-9 figure business in like the healthcare industry, and everything went to hell on him. Okay. And it was the worst thing that could ever happen. And every time I talk to him, there's no complaining, because he just doesn't look at it that way. It's a setback. It's an adventure. So if we love it in movies we're watching and we admire the protagonist, who's the hero, who's solving these problems or trying to, and there's usually a guide there too to help, because that's the formula. Why do we love it in movies and hate it in our own life? And, life is an adventure. Your life is an adventure. And you're the protagonist. And these things are all going to happen. And how do you deal with it? But also, how do you view it? Do you view it as another challenge on the level to get better? Because I don't play video games, but it's my understanding when you play video, this is what happens to you. And then when you get to another level, you get some kind of reward. And so you're playing a video game and you love it and it's so challenging, it's also your life. Your life is challenging too. And do you view your life, do you view it as an adventure, or do you view it as a headache? Because if you view it as a headache, you can't hide from these things. That you can't keep things from occurring. You can't keep things from going wrong. So if you view it as a headache, then you're just going to have one big, long, miserable life, and it's never going to get better. But if you view it as an adventure and you think, I'm the hero, I'm the problem solver, I'm going to solve this issue, I'm going to make things better. I'm going to make things better for me. I'm going to make things better for the people that depend on me. I'm going to make things better for my family. I'm going to make things better, for my employees. I'm going to make things better for my customers and my clients. Just that attitudinal change it really is life-changing because you're accepting reality and doing something about it. I think, I can't remember her name, but she said, frustration and unhappiness is when expectations do not meet reality, because you expect things to be one way, but reality is they're not. I think Cy Wakeman. Expectations versus reality. Reality is reality. No matter what your expectations are, you cannot change it, okay? So for me, I go to work, office contacts me, something broke, something happened, and I just say, great. There's another problem to solve. Great, we're going to figure this out. And sometimes when that happens, you really have a breakthrough, okay? And sometimes the worst thing in the world happening to you actually or usually is an opportunity to get better, to do something different. Necessity is the mother of invention. So how do you deal with that? Do you complain, or do you accept the challenge? What are you going to do? Okay? And whether you have a small law practice where it's just you and one or two support staff, or you have a law firm with 30 employees, staying small doesn't solve your problems. Okay? It just means you have fewer resources, less leverage, fewer people to help you think and act your way out of it. And the greatest businesses solve the biggest problems. And solving a problem propels you forward, makes life better for everybody. So think about that. All of our lives, I hesitate to say this, bad things happen to all of us. If you read my book, and people have said, my God, Greg, you went through so much. I can't believe you overcame that. And I said, really, I don't think my life was any harder than anybody else's. These things happened, or these things occurred. Some of them I caused. But it's just punching through, not giving up, and going forward. And how you view it and how your attitude about these things is crucial. So do you view life as a headache or an adventure? I don't know about you, but if I had that choice, I'm going to be an adventurer. I'm going to solve problems. I'm going to make my life one big adventure. And my life has been a great adventure, and I embrace it. So something to think about. See you next time.
If you want to know more, go to prosperatlaw.com. We show criminal defense law firm owners how to reduce stress, have more free time, and make more money. Thanks for listening.